So we're going to do the history of surgical education in 3 slides. Okay, here's the first one. First of all, surgical education surgery started off really with just exotic procedures. I'll just back it up. Sorry? Okay, if you know how to fix it, you go ahead. So it started off with little things people can do here and there. Poultices, redoing some things on the ear and the face and so on. Way back, 300 BC in India, some of the early writings, things of this sort. We're talking Galen here, we're talking those kinds of things, right? They coalesced into centers where people started to say, well, we have a little bit more stuff now. We can actually train more people in a more organized fashion. So they coalesced into centers where the big shots, Galen, Vesalius, etc., were trying to put the information together and try to train more people. And evolved eventually, as the content became larger, it evolved eventually into didactic clinical instruction, like what we have right now. In a smaller way, and in very few centers, but that's kind of how it went forward. So surgical associations then led to things like the Surgeon Barber Guild in England, right? You may have heard about that we actually were barbers to start with when we started off in that one guild. And then around 1540, that's when it started. About a couple of 100 years later, then you had surgeons and barbers as separate people. Right? So we used to actually, we shave in the OR still because it's in our blood. Now, surgical education, to start with, was very research oriented. So as that process moved forward, more and more research got done as to how we do things in surgery. And that, again, led to a laboratory-based process. So besides looking after patients, you were also doing a lot of research. And the German schools really pushed this forward. So Kussmaul and Virchow, things of this. These are the people who made this work. And then Halstead, from America, went to Germany, took this Germanic example and brought it back to Johns Hopkins, and kept going with that. There was a lot of critique about that, about the fact that one guy with 8 residents, the first 4 were allowed to go for 4 years, the other 4 were only allowed to go for 1 year, and then they were let loose. Like, how do you work that? That's odd, right? What about the 1-year guys? Were they like too super smart, or were they just going to be doing like lumps and bumps? No one really knows. But it wasn't really that great when you think about it. There were lots of things. But that apprenticeship model and that basis in good surgical education and research really started to catch on. And more people took a hold of that and went forward with it. Flexner specifically in the 1910 report, this is a landmark report if you want to read something about this, the Flexner report in 1910 suggested then after this, after looking across the whole country, that you should have 2 years of laboratory education and then 2 years of hospital-based education and heavy on the research, right? Let's bring this from a bunch of mom and pop schools here and there or someplace where you could pay for your degree and then start working on people to something with some standards and some high level of excellence, right? That's what Flexner really did for medical education in 1910. Just so you know, to update things, in 2010, the 100-year review of the Flexner report occurred, and there is a ton of work going on in that in the States and in Canada. So in Canada, the Royal College just recently put together 11 white papers on medical education in Canada and what the future should look like. So there's a question.
The Flexner report recommended 2 years of lab education and 2 years of hospital-based education for medical school, specifically for surgery.
This is for medical school to start with. The medical schools were everywhere, right? And from then comes the surgery, right? So that's, and residencies evolved out of this process. Residencies for apprenticeship and so on evolved from there. So then the surgical education now, where are we at now? We get undergraduate degree. We expect people to do that. We have 3 or 4 years for an MD, depending on which school you're from. Problem-based or didactic or some mixture. A lot of problem-based stuff, regardless of where you are these days. 1 year clinical fellowship in I think every school across Canada right now, but that's not uniform across the world. And then you have a residency match. Everyone, puts their name in a big hat and you go where you have to go, right? Then you get 5 years of surgical training, plus maybe fellowships, etc. You're looking at 12 plus years after high school, right? Now you're thinking, 12 years of my life is gone to get ready for all this stuff. 12 years of medical education in the prime of your life. So if you think about that, that's why this is so important. You should not be wasting your time. We should not be wasting your time as residents, right? The whole process that you put together should be robust and it should serve society well, if we're going to take that long to do it. And it's really important that we do this really well. The last thing you want to be is that guy. I'm not sure if you can see it here. He says, geez, I never could get the hang of tying these things as he looks at the shoelaces. Right? So there's a good reason to have good surgical education. We don't want to create surgeons like this. This is my favorite cartoon. I think that the insight of the cartoonist to actually put this in here is amazing. So there are 4 things that I think really drive surgical education research. Quality improvement initiatives, and these are the things I kind of picked out to start with looking at the literature and why it drives me. Right? So quality improvement initiatives in terms of making surgical education better. Economic drivers, there's lots of those. I'm sure you all have had cases, or residents for instance, have had cases canceled at the end of the day that you were hoping to do or that the staff has to get done because there isn't enough time. Technological advances, who doesn't know about the laparoscope? That was in its infancy when I started. And aligning service to society's needs. That's like the CanMeds thing. Why are we here as doctors? What are we learning about? Why are we learning it? But really it's to serve somebody else. It's to serve the public. I'm not sure if any of you read the Medical Post, the last one that came out. There's a big article starting on page 8 about advocacy and about the fact that many medical students coming in now really look at advocacy or helping patients as a big part of why they're here. And they really kind of, they latch on to that as a very big principle. Again, aligning what you do to society's needs. That's really what that's about. So I took a look at what's been going on in the last little while in the literature. And this is not randomized controlled trials. This is not evidence-based stuff. This is where the leaders of medical education think we really need to go. So a blue ribbon panel was struck by the American Surgical Association. This is back in 2002, and they put out a report in 2004 after arguing for 2 whole years. When I say arguing, you should see some of the letters that went back and forth and what some people are saying about each other. There was a lot of arguing. So if the leaders of education are arguing hotly about things, it means they care, it means it's important, right? 2 things. So the Blue Ribbon recommendations suggested that undergraduate medical education is important, and surgeons who have abandoned that in general, practically everywhere in North America, should start participating again in undergraduate medical education. They said this back in 2004. We at McMaster still are in this boat. So we did a project in the last 2 years showing that really surgeons are absent from medical school in the first 2 years. It's no wonder the medical students think that surgery is this wasteland that no one wants to go into. Right? We should change that. Addressing work-hour lifestyle balance, a very important thing. Some of you, the staff, some of you here are probably are our staff for sure, and I'm sure I'm preaching to the converted when I say we don't have to rail against this work-life balance thing. Really, it's where things are at. It's what society really wants and what we should be looking at changing. We don't need to work 24 hours straight. I don't really like working 24 hours straight. I'd love to be a bit more awake, right? More efficient tailored residency. So something that works better. When I was a resident, you could dump me in for 5 years, and there was so much stuff going on. If I didn't come out as a good surgeon at the end of that, if I couldn't pickle myself in medical education in that length of time, there was something wrong with me. But now we don't have that much clinical experience in 5 years anymore. The efficiency has to be much higher, and you have to really tailor what you're doing and make sure that your education is appropriate, right? So tailoring it to that, making it more efficient. And it has to be tailored to each specific resident. This is no longer about the program. It's no longer about we're Mac Medical School, we're University of Western Ontario, we're Toronto, we're whatever. It's not about we have good graduates. It's about how are those residents prepared to do their work when they're done. Very important. Faculty development. Back then they said, you know what, if we're going to make medical education better, we have to make sure that faculty development is good. The staff who grew up in a different age don't have this. They need to know. You need to give them some strength, some training. And training in research methodology, they also said is missing. The presidential address of 2006 of Carlos Pellegrini, again from the American Surgical Association, looked at everything that was happening in the last few years, including what the Blue Panel report said. And he said, change the structure of the residency, we've seen that already, make it resident-oriented, what we've seen, and patient-centered. Right? So he's saying, ACGME is coming out, things are here, make it patient-centered. Integrate simulation formally into surgical education. First time we've seen that on a big thing like this. And emphasize professionalism, practice-based learning, and communication. The American College of Surgery then struck this thing called SCORE. So the Surgical Council on Residency Education. And they put out this article back in 2007. So they worked on this again for a couple of years, and Richard Bell did this. And they said, we want to define, we're going to make a defined modular curriculum. We're going to make sure that there's a standard that's really high in surgery that you just can't read, that you just can't touch. It's good. We want a website for residency training, which basically means we want a clearinghouse, a powerful clearinghouse to do the work of surgical education and to support the residents who are actually getting their medical education here, their surgical education. He said, we're going to get a technical skills curriculum in place because people have to learn some basics. That means there's a curriculum. We can do that. And they wanted to start a fundamentals of surgical curriculum for the PGY1s. Now, they've actually done all four of those things. And assessment of competency is the one that's really still there as the holy grail. How do we know that we are where we expect it to be? Assessment is really important. It's key. Assessment, you've heard of assessment drives education. We're still looking at how we assess things properly so we can know what medical education and surgical education is about. But if you think about it, a modular curriculum in general surgery, modular curriculum, a website that's really got things together and organized, a technical skills curriculum where they actually will accredit technical skills training centers across North America, and fundamentals of first year surgery. That's an incredible amount of work to be done in like 5 years. Okay? And just last month, so Ajit Sachdev is a guy who I met at the Association for Surgical Education meeting way back in 2000. And back then he was a powerhouse. He continues on as a director of education at the American College of Surgery right now. And he gave a speech, which I was unable to attend last month, on the future of postgraduate medical education as it refers to surgery in the United States. Right? And he said there really are two mega trends right now. The first one was, I'm going to read this out to you because I couldn't shorten this anymore. To improve the quality of patient care, enhance credentialing and privileging, decrease risk of liability, and reduce the cost of care while having innovative education and training. And robust assessment. Again, robust assessment. He actually put that word in there and didn't cut it out for a reason. And then advances in competency-based education and training involving robust assessments and verification of knowledge and skills, and focusing on the new mandates and the opportunities coming up in medical education. Right? So that's kind of what the future holds for surgical education. That's really where things are looking at as the leaders in medical education look forward. And what does it all mean? This is really, these four things that I found when I looked through it comprehensively are really a call to arms for surgical education. It says, we as the people who consume surgical education and know where it's coming from and what we have to do with it, really need to identify where we need to improve. Then engage in learning, understand what needs to get better and how we need to do it. Apply that knowledge and skills to practice, so change it on the fly and make sure we're checking for improvement and then start again and do something else, right? That call to arms. So what does current surgical education research look like? Well, technical skills acquisition and assessment. You probably all have been guinea pigs in some research project here and there. Things like, we can look at what we do in the open processes, although a lot of that research has already been done, or it's considered acceptable already. You can look at laparoscopic. So when I was a boy, when I was in residency programs, laparoscopic research projects were really where things were at. If you picked up one of the journals and there was a medical education, a surgical education paper, it was about how to train people laparoscopically, right? There's endovascular since then, microvascular, image guided, you name it, we can look at it, right? Non-technical skills for surgeons. So we finally come about to realize what the business world has known for a long time, that how you do something is as important as what you do, right? If you make the operating room a really noxious place to work, you're not going to get the work outcome you expect. And looking at all these other kinds of things in the operating room is a big part of what we do right now, including team-based practice, interprofessional.